You know that feeling, that nagging sense that the world is, well, teetering on the brink? That everything we know is about to fundamentally change? Well, it turns out you are not alone, not by a long shot. In fact, that feeling might be one of the most timeless human experiences there is. Today, we're going to dive into this persistent sense that the world is ending, and we're going to do it through the eyes of one self-described nobody who tried to make sense of it all. This quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? It comes from a memoir called Just Me. Text, and it just perfectly captures this deep sense of alienation that feels so personal, but also kind of universal. It's this exact feeling that's going to be our guide as we try to figure out what it really means to live through times of massive, massive change. So who was this stranger? Let's meet the author of that quote. He was a man born back in 1960 who, by his own admission, lived a pretty quiet, even unremarkable life. But, beneath that calm surface, he was wrestling with this huge disconnect from the world around him. He always suspected he might have had a touch of Asperger's syndrome, which, of course, would have gone undiagnosed back then. He talks about never really fitting in, even with a loving family. He described it like being a disembodied spirit, just awkwardly trying to pilot a body in a world that just didn't quite compute. Now, here's where it gets really fascinating. He decided to take that feeling and do something with it. He started this project to connect his own, seemingly insignificant story to the massive, sweeping story of societal change. He wondered, could his personal sense of living at the end of his world actually tell us something about the feeling that the entire world was ending? It's a powerful idea, for sure, but it kind of begs the question, do worlds actually end, or is it all just in our heads? Well, if you look at history, the answer is a big, flashing yes. Worlds absolutely do end, just maybe not in the way you're picturing. See, societal collapse isn't always about fire and asteroids. Often, it's the death of an entire way of thinking, an entire worldview. Just look at the medieval world. For centuries, its reality was held together by one singular authority, the church. But then, a new piece of technology came along and completely shattered everything. In 1450, Gutenberg's printing press made it possible to spread ideas faster and further than ever before. All of a sudden, people could read the Bible for themselves, form their own opinions, and challenge the church's monopoly on truth. This wasn't just a religious shift, it was a full-blown information revolution. And just think about the minds that were born into this new era. Columbus, Da Vinci, Copernicus. The press didn't just print books, it printed a whole new world. And that set off a massive chain reaction. After Martin Luther kicked off the Reformation in 1517, challenging the central authority, it gave people the courage to challenge all authority, including the so-called facts of nature. It's no coincidence that the founding texts of modern geography, anatomy, geology, and zoology were all published after that religious rebellion began. The end of one world was the chaotic, messy birth of another. Okay, so with that history in mind, let's zoom right back to our guy, because the world he was born into was also going through its own profound, world-shattering upheaval. 1960, the start of a decade that would completely rewrite the rules of society. It was a time of incredible hope and technology, but also unimaginable, existential dread, all happening at the exact same time. This lyric from that famous 1965 song, it absolutely nailed the feeling of the time. The nuclear button could be pushed at any moment. The Cold War wasn't some far-off political game. It was this daily, terrifying reality that was baked into the consciousness of everyone alive. The world really truly felt like it could end at any second. And the pressure just kept ratcheting up. I mean, look at these numbers from 1961, when our protagonist was just a baby. Tens of thousands of people were desperately fleeing East Germany every single month. It got so bad that they built the Berlin Wall, a literal concrete curtain dividing the world. This was the tense, fractured reality he was born into. And yet, amidst all that global chaos, what were his first memories? Not nuclear drills, not political crises, no. They were the tiny, vivid details of childhood. Cardboard books with pictures so crisp they felt more real than reality. A favorite bright red and blue plastic dump truck. It's that jarring contrast, the immense weight of history happening just outside the small personal frame of an ordinary life, that makes his story so relatable. And this brings us to a really crucial point. While his time felt uniquely dangerous, the feeling itself was not new at all. This sense that we're living in the end times is a constant, recurring theme all throughout human history. I bet you've seen this quote or something like it floating around the internet, right? Usually attributed to some ancient, wise civilization. Well, here's a fun little twist for you. It's a myth. Researchers have actually traced this specific quote not to an ancient Assyrian tablet, but to a, wait for it, 1908 magazine for cyclists. Yep. It seems like every generation thinks they have it the worst, and we have this funny habit of projecting our own anxieties onto the past. But the feeling is still very, very real. Just think about T.S. Eliot writing these famous lines back in 1925. He was part of a generation left completely disillusioned and hollowed out after the war to end all wars. The world they knew had ended, not in some big fiery explosion, but in a slow, quiet, grinding loss of meaning. So, how are we supposed to live with this? How do you make sense of a world that feels both miraculous and on the verge of total collapse, all at once? Let's go back one last time to our protagonist for his very personal answer. Faced with this life of constant contradictions, he developed a personal motto to kind of hold it all together. Everything and nothing. Now, at first that might sound a little weird, but for him, it was a way to embrace the fundamental duality of just being alive. He figured out that both of these statements can be 100% true at the exact same time. The world can fill you with incredible joy and profound despair. You can be surrounded by people you love and still feel completely alone. Life isn't an either-or choice. It's everything, all at once. And this is his ultimate insight. When you mix all those vibrant, contrasting colors of life together, the deep black of despair and the brilliant white of joy, what do you get? From a distance, it all just blends into a single, unremarkable color, a muddy mess, as he put it. He realized his supposedly unremarkable life wasn't insignificant at all. It was actually a perfect microcosm of the world's beautiful and terrible complexity. So here's the bottom line. That feeling of being a stranger in a strange land, it isn't a bug. It's a feature of being human in a constantly changing world. It's the thread that connects an unremarkable man from 1960 to a monk in 1500 and to every single one of us right here, right now. His story shows us that to understand the huge, sweeping forces of history, sometimes all you need to do is look closely at a single ordinary life. Which leaves us with one final thought. If his unremarkable life held the key to understanding his world, what does your life say about ours?